Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It is Wednesday. It's December 14th. It's 2016 for just a couple more weeks now. It's almost Christmas time, so hopefully everybody's getting their Christmas stuff together. I'm ready to go. I'm much better this time around on this Wednesday podcast with these three guys, or these two guys joining me here. Not a good start already. Look, already messing up. I got my dude, my man, Notorious. How you doing today, Derek?
I'm doing good. What's up, boys?
And then we got this guy. Like we're running so late right now because this guy just decided he wants to show up late. Like SBK, how you doing, man?
15 minutes. 15 minutes. Come on, you guys are acting like it's on an hour late or something. But I'm just living the dream, man. Hanging in there. Enjoy it. Looking forward to recording this with you, bros.
Yeah, we have kids. 15 minutes is sleep time.
Hopefully you're like swiping left or something. Like something useful.
I wish. Yeah.
Is left good? I thought right was good.
Right is good. Yeah,
well,
right is good. Yeah.
I was trying to make a joke out of him, like making us.
I was swiping left. Yeah, I had to wait 15 minutes to find a good one. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, well, you and your blue Solo cup with water, and me and Noto with our kids. Like we need to get this thing going. So we're gonna jump into this 10-game slate. Notoriously, just awesomely. Tweeted out some questions, so got some questions to answer at the end of the podcast. We'll talk about some value plays over at rosters.com at the end of the podcast. If you guys haven't checked them out, they are the sponsor of the podcast. If you guys enjoy this Monday through Friday, make sure you head on over there. Check them out. Use promo code Grinders. That way you guys get incentives here at Roto Grinders. Also, they run all kinds of cool promos here at Roto Grinders. If you want access to those promos, make sure you're using that promo code Grinders. The first game we got here is the Clippers at Orlando. No total in this game because we got to pay attention to the injury news tomorrow morning. We have Austin Rivers, who's questionable, Vooch, who's questionable, and we have all these guys that are questionable on a back-to-back. Kind of see what happens here. We gave Notorious the home teams last time, so Derek, I'll give you the away teams here. What are we doing with the Clippers in this game?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting spot. Magic are playing second half of a back-to-back. It's not really a great matchup in terms of points allowed per game. Magic are ranked sixth. They're a pretty slow-paced team. But with the Clippers, they're a lot like the Warriors. We're more concerned about the spread. So as long as the spread comes in under 10 points, I think we can target these guys. Chris Paul's been really good the last few games. His price on DraftKings still only $8,700. Seems a bit too cheap, especially in the matchup against DJ Augustin, who's got a really bad defensive real plus-minus on the season. And then Blake Griffin, $8,500. Gotta like him. He's coming off that big game as well.
Real quick, there's some narrative here too. Like I talked to the guy that does local news here for sports, and he was at Winter Park High School today, and they retired Austin Rivers' jersey today, and the whole Clippers team with Doc Rivers was at the high school retiring Austin Rivers' high school jersey here in Winter Park.
Man. So you're saying we should play him in cash?
No, I'm saying he's questionable. Like his concussion was feeling good enough to smile and take pictures.
Well, yeah. So that means he's got to be playing. And then we also got to bring up Monty Muto.
I'm not saying his name.
One of the podcast favorites.
How can we forget about Monty Muto?
I hate you both.
Yeah, don't play him, but make sure to tweet at Stevie just a few times throughout the day tomorrow.
Nope, not even going to try to go there. We're just going to, I'm with you on Chris Paul. He's been playing really good. FanDuel, 9,600. I feel like the price is a little too high. Like, I'll get my exposure to Paul on DraftKings. Griffin, coming off of a big game. If Biyombo sits in this game, like, that's a really good matchup for DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, because then probably Vooch will be back, and then we can just attack this interior. What are we doing with the Magic, SBK?
I think it's very much dependent on the Vooch news. I think if he's ruled out, it does open up some spots for Serge Ibaka, Biyombo. If he plays, I don't know that this will be a spot I'm going to be looking to attack. They're going to be on second half of a back-to-back. But I mean, if we can get Biyombo at 4,400 on FanDuel, to play 30, 32, 33 minutes, something like that, he's going to have a hard time missing value. Ibaka, we saw him go off tonight, in terms of scoring. I think we could see that again. He gets a slight uptick in usage with Vooch off the floor. I'm not all that interested in Fournier. He's coming off a couple good games. He's been shooting 58% from the field over his past 3, but his season average is 43%, and he may run into that Monty Muto defense. So I'm a little bit concerned there. So I think I'm off Fournier tonight. I think, but if Vooch does sit, I'm going to have some Ibaka and definitely some Biyombo.
All right. Any interest in J.J. Redick with the revenge game coming back to Orlando, team that drafted him?
I don't play JJ Redick that often. I hate guys that just rely on scoring so much. The price is cheap on FanDuel, though. If you need a cheap shooting guard, too, I don't mind him in tournaments.
I might go to that game just to see my boy. JJ Redick's my dude, man. Love that guy. Charlotte at Washington, 212.5 total here. No injury news that I had seen. So we'll start with the Charlotte side. Derek, what are we doing here with this Charlotte basketball team?
Yeah, so it's a pretty nice matchup overall. Wizards ranked 20th in points allowed per game, 22nd in defensive efficiency. But, we usually like to target the Hornets more at home. Kemba Walker and Batum both have better splits at home than on the road. I don't mind them at their price points, but they're not really guys I'm going to start my lineups with. Probably just throw a couple darts in GPPs. My favorite bet here, which kind of is weird, is Marvin Williams. Played 28 and 30 minutes in his last 2 games. He's still only 4,300 on FanDuel and 4,400 on DraftKings.
Yeah, like the Marvin Williams call, the minutes have started to come back. Like Kemba Walker on FanDuel at 7,400, I feel like you can definitely get some tournament exposure there. Guy that burnt me the other night, like I tested the waters playing Jeremy Lamb in a tournament, and it just didn't happen. I won't be going back there. Looking at the Washington side here, what are we doing here? SBK.
So I think John Wall's in a nice spot. Not a bad matchup with Kemba Walker. Obviously, the draw at home is a plus. I think he's a little bit of a better compared to the price tag on FanDuel. He's definitely getting up there over there. Besides that, I think a lot of these guys are best left for GPPs. Bradley Beal, his price has been creeping up. He's also been playing well, so it's warranted. But he's tough. He's in a tough matchup here. Charlotte's 5th against shooting guards. Porter's been unbelievably inconsistent lately. The minutes are still there, so he's going to have one of these big games soon. Just kind of matter of when. I won't be targeting him with any kind of regularity, but he's due here soon. I think Markieff Morris is still in play. He's still priced reasonably across the industry. I like the spot against these Hornet power forwards. Gortat is not interesting enough for me on this slate. 10 games. He's still priced in that mid-range, but the ceiling is fairly limited. He's got a decent floor, so if he's your last step in a cash game, I don't mind it. But besides that, I think I'm going to be pretty heavy on Wall, and besides that, I won't have too much exposure to this side.
Yeah, I like the Wall call. I want Porter to have like 1 or 2 more bad games to get that price down to like 5K, 37 minutes at 5K, and that's when we want to jump on him. Like, I don't hate him for a tournament. Like, if you're going to play 35-plus minutes, like, the matchup is solid here for him, so I don't hate that. Let's move on, though. Indy at Miami, 205 total here. Miami favored by 1.5. Waiters and Winslow already ruled out for the Miami side. And then on the Indiana side, Ellis has already been ruled out, and Stuckey is questionable. What are we doing with the Pacers?
Kind of a tough spot for them. Miami's a really slow-paced team, although over the last 2 weeks they are in the bottom 10 in defensive efficiency. Ever since they lost Justice Winslow, they've really been struggling on the defensive end. So here it really depends on Rodney Stuckey. I mean, if he's out, with Ellis out as well, I think you could look at CJ Miles, should see quite a few minutes off the bench. And then Jeff Teague, worth a look in tournaments. He sees a usage bump without Ellis in the lineup. Paul George has been he's been good the last few games, still under 8K on DraftKings. I don't mind him in tournaments. And then Miles Turner coming off that 40 fantasy point outing against the Hornets. We've seen a lot of centers have success against Hassan Whiteside this season, which is kind of strange. I mean, he's a good defender, and his individual defensive rating is pretty good. But until centers stop having success, I'll keep targeting them against the Heat.
Yeah, for sure. Don't mind that at all. Running a query here on the Court IQ. I'm kind of curious. Let's see. CJ Miles getting that second usage with Stuckey out is about 27% usage. So, I like that call. If we get news that Stuckey and Ellis are both out, it's those bench guys that get those high usage that can win you tournaments. So I like that CJ Miles call there. Turner is so frustrating. Like, I'm so done with this guy. I'm just done. Like, even if he has that 40-point game again, enjoy it, have fun with it. I'll let you have it. Miami Heat side here with Waiters and Winslow out, a bunch of questionable remarks everywhere else. Like, what are we doing with the Heat?
Well, I think Whiteside is my favorite play here by far. Indiana is the third worst rebounding rate in the league. They also play at a fast pace. They're top 10 in pace, so there's going to be a lot of rebounding opportunity there for Whiteside. Especially on FanDuel, he's still sitting at 8,700 where he was back on Monday. So that price is really appealing, especially in tournaments. There's a massive ceiling there. Goran Dragic is the only other guy on the Miami side I have any interest in. Now that Richardson's back, it's kind of eaten into the minutes of the Ellingtons and Magruders and Tyler Johnson. So those guys are kind of off the board for me right now. But Dragic, Indiana struggles with point guards, 21st in DVP. His usage rate is right up there with guys like Kemba Walker who are priced a little bit higher. He's not too far below John Wall. So, a Dragic Whiteside stack in tournaments, I think, is a nice ceiling there.
I could definitely get behind that. I don't mind the Dragon, and then the GOAT side, when he wants to play basketball, always has that opportunity to have those 50-plus point fantasy games. It's just all right, so we have Whiteside and Turner going against each other here. Like, who gets in foul trouble first? Is it going to be Turner with 2 fouls in the first 5 minutes, or is it going to be Whiteside with 2 fouls in the first 5 minutes? I'll let you answer that one, Derek.
Yeah, I think they both stay out of foul trouble and both have big games.
All right, well, if that happens, I'm going to ask you for lottery numbers tomorrow. We're going to move on, though. We're heading to Philadelphia. Like, SBK, this is your hometown. So you should nail this one. We have a 206.5 total here. Toronto favored by 8.5. On the Philly side, Embiid is probable to return here with a sore elbow. Rodriguez was sick. He's probable. Noel is questionable, and Bayless has already been ruled out. The Toronto side, if you say DeRozan, Derek, I'm going to mute you.
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about DeRozan.
Yeah, we could talk about 30 fantasy points. That's fine.
Oh, man. Come on.
Hey, all you guys that, we're on the DeRozan train, how bad is that crash for you guys?
I mean, I don't play him that often, but, he's fine. He's had, 36 and, 7 of his last 10. I mean, that's fine.
He's still 8,500, though, or 8,400. You need more than 36.
Well, not on DraftKings. DraftKings is pretty cheap. But anyway, let's get back to the matchup. Sixers, pretty good spot overall. They aren't the worst defensive team. They're 18th in points allowed per game, so it's not a terrible spot for the Raptors. I like that it's on the road. Hopefully, it'll be a pretty competitive game. Kyle Lowry just continues to see huge minutes. They keep talking about monitoring his minutes, but until that happens, don't believe it. He still ranks second in minutes per game in the NBA, so I still like him quite a bit. He was on a tear there for a while, and we know the Sixers can't stop point guards, so I like him. Your boy DeMar DeRozan, 8,000 on DraftKings. Pretty good spot for him, although I do think they're going to stick Robert Covington on him. And he has one of the best defensive real plus-minus ratings of any small forward this season. So if you want an argument against DeRozan, I think Robert Covington's a pretty good one. DeMarre Carroll is probably my favorite value play, or at least one of them at small forward, averaging 30 minutes over his last 3 games. And just a nice play at his price point.
No, I love the Carroll call. I think he's an excellent value here. We've seen – small forwards just exceed value against Philly at a high rate this season. So I like the Carroll call. Pretty cheap everywhere. Love the Lowry call. He's a guy that I'm definitely going to be targeting. DeRozan, yeah, he stinks. We'll move on. The Philly side here, where we have Embiid coming back. What are your thoughts here, SBK?
So it's not as scary of a matchup as it may look like. Toronto, I think, is typically thought of as one of the better defenses in the NBA. They're about league average this year. But still, even with that, I think Embiid is really the only guy I have a lot of interest in. If Rodriguez were to somehow stay sick and sit again, obviously you'd load up on TJ McConnell. But Rodriguez, his price is creeping up a little bit. I'm not in love with that call, especially in a relatively tough matchup with Toronto backcourt. But Embiid, he's still at 7K on FanDuel. It's still a little too cheap for me to ignore. On DraftKings, they kind of make you think a little bit more about it. But at 7K on FanDuel, I'm definitely in on Embiid. I like the matchup with Valanciunas. We don't know about Noel at this point, so if he plays, it obviously eats into the upside of a guy like Ersan Ilyasova. So I think if Noel plays, you just kind of avoid that front court outside of Embiid. I'm not on Robert Covington, so it's pretty much just a process for me. That's about it.
Yeah, a guy with a 35.6% true usage rate this season in Embiid. The guy is just he's a beast, and that's all that needs to be said about this guy. A guy touching the ball that much at a center position for 7K. We have to look at it. I don't even care what the matchup looks like on paper. We'll move on, though. One of my favorite games and probably the most stackable game on the slate. We have the Lakers at Brooklyn, 228 total here. Brooklyn favored by 1.5. If this game stays close, there's going to be all the fantasy goodness here, and I'll let you have the Lakers, Noto.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird spot. We have two of the fastest-paced teams in the NBA, two of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. And like you mentioned, 228 total is huge, especially considering, how bad these teams are. So there's going to be a ton of fantasy goodness, like you said, but I just don't know where we're going to get it from. Lakers have really deep rotation, especially since Russell and Nick Young came back from their injuries. Julius Randle's probably the best bet here. He's averaging over 30 minutes in his last few games. And, if you look at the DVP of the Nets, they're ranked 28th or worse against every position. So you can basically just target a bunch of these guys in tournaments. I think Randle's probably the safest in cash games. Lou Williams, he doesn't have that elite minute upside anymore now that Russell's back, but I do still think he'll see minutes in the mid-20s, and we know what he can do in that short time period. So I like him as well, and I won't be chasing the Luol Deng game. I know he had a big game, but I'll let other people chase those points.
Yeah, they played this game earlier this year. It was 118 to 125 in LA. LA won that game. Randle, as you mentioned, he had a big game. He had a triple-double in that game. 14 rebounds, 10 assists, 17 actual points. He only played 31 minutes, was right around what we've seen from him all season. So I definitely like that. What's your thoughts on Mozgov? If we're fitting in all these top studs and we look at a guy that's min salary, you have any interest here?
Maybe if you're playing a short slate, like a turbo slate or something, I don't mind him. I usually like guys that have a little bit more minute upside. But, like you mentioned, he's close to min salary and one of the best game environments, so I certainly won't hate on it.
Yeah, with Black already been ruled out, like I could see him playing those 24 to 25 minute kind of range for Mozgov, and min salary against Brooklyn. Like I don't know, little interest there for me, but that's where my tournament brain is way different than your cash game brain. You're probably right on the money here, and I should probably not even think about it. And looking at the Brooklyn side of things. Speaking of centers, Brook Lopez, one of the weirdest stat lines ever the other night, but dominating this matchup earlier this season. He ended up with 50 fantasy points. What's your thoughts on Brook Lopez here?
Well, I like Brook Lopez, but it's kind of amazing that the Nets have the highest team total on the slate so far. I mean, obviously we don't have all of the lines in yet, still waiting on some injury news, but for them to have the highest team total on a 7-game slate, which is I think all the lines we have out now, that's still kind of amazing. Just goes to show you the ineptitude of the Lakers defense. I think Lopez is my favorite play on this Brooklyn side. I think last week when we had brought up Lopez, his minutes hadn't been quite as secure, but he's been kind of in that low 30 range now, which is a bit safer, especially with where he's priced. The Lakers are dead last against centers, so it's a lock and load spot for Lopez. The upside is massive. Cash games, he's obviously a little iffy. The Brooklyn rotation is deep. And if by some miracle this game gets out of hand and the Lakers somehow run away with it, he'd be obviously at a disadvantage. And just a minute there. Outside of Lopez, I think Trevor Booker's in a great spot here. Still under 6K on FanDuel and DraftKings. He seems to perform better when in pace-up games, which we'll have tonight. So I think it's Lopez and Booker. With Lynn back, it's a little hard to target. Sean Kilpatrick will probably see Lynn eat in a bit of his usage as time goes on. So I think the backcourt, I don't like it. I'm not going there. Even a guy like Bogdanovich, he's 4,400 on both sites. You're really hoping for him to be hot shooting to return value. So I think it's going to be Lopez and Booker for me. That's about it.
The thing about Bojan, though, like he does have over 23 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. He's still only 4,400 pace-up game. Like if you want to make a case for a guy that's under 5% that's cheap at small forward, like a small forward, it's a position I feel like we're going to pay down on this slate. Like there's just not outside of like, a guy that we'll talk about here in a little while, Kawhi and Paul George, like we're really saving money. I guess Gordon Hayward could be thrown in there too, but small forward, a position that we're probably going to be paying down for here, and I don't mind Bojan in this game. We're going to talk about this next game, and I really throw my hands up here. Cleveland at Memphis. We have a 203 total. Cleveland favored by 7.5. The injury news is very easy. LeBron, Kyrie, and Love out. Derek, you get the Cavs here. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that spread's going to change. I think that was probably posted before all these guys got ruled out or something. 'Cause there's no way.
They've pulled it down.
Yeah, there's no way the Cavs are going to be favored in this game. When J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson are your best two players, probably not going to be favored. But, I mean, as long as it's not like a 10-point spread or a 15-point spread, I think the Cavaliers just loaded with value plays. J.R. Smith is basically the free square of the night. 3,500 for a guy that's going to have a huge usage and likely play minutes in the mid-30s. And had that big game last night against the same Grizzlies team. So I don't see how you can fade him at this price. Just play Smith. And then all the other guys are in play as well. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they start Felder or McRae. Whoever ends up starting at point guard is going to be, min salary punt option, which is nice. DeAndre Liggins and Iman Shumpert should see big minutes. And then Channing Frye, like him, power forward, he's averaging 0.94 fantasy points a minute, which is the highest of their active players for this spot. So he's going to be a nice play. Tristan Thompson may actually crack a 10% usage in this one, which he doesn't do very often. I mean, you can just load up on the Cavs. I mean, even if they score 85 points, these min-salary guys, somebody's going to have to reach value.
We were talking about it before SBK joined us because obviously he was late. But J.R. Smith,
not gonna let that go.
J.R. Smith gets a 15% usage bump with all three of these guys off the floor this season. So yeah, free square, the min salary on FanDuel. The guy that I have a ton of interest here is McRae. Like blowout proof to the max, right? Like they're gonna let this young guy play in this game. You would think.
Yeah, you could think so. I mean, I hope he gets the start. Even if he doesn't, he's going to be in play. I mean, all these guys. The most expensive guy on FanDuel is Thompson at $5K. Everyone else is $3,800 or cheaper. I mean, it's crazy.
So if you're playing tournaments here, like I know you guys are, I know Noto, you're a big cash game guy, but if you're playing tournaments here, could you make a case for fading Cleveland here just because of the percentage that we're going to see on these guys?
I was just going to ask that. Go ahead, no.
I was going to say, I mean, yeah, they're going to score points. Some of these guys are going to hit 8 or 9 times value. So I think you just pick your spots in tournaments. I mean, I think J.R. Smith's pretty much a lock in all formats, but the rest of these guys, I think you just got to pick your spots in tournaments because they're gonna have some huge games compared to their price points.
So maybe we look at a bench guy or two instead of just focusing on just the starters, or maybe playing 1 or 2 instead of playing 2 or 3 to be different here. I'm with you. Like they're just too cheap, and we do have studs on the slate. Like we have the next game we're going to talk about is Sacramento Houston. Like we'll talk about that in a minute, but like. We're going to want Cousins. We're going to want Harden, and we get this value at Cleveland. I'm kind of with you there. I don't want to fade him completely, but I feel like on teams I'm going to limit exposure just because anything can happen, and a guy like James Jones can come out of the blue and, like, shock us and score, 25 points or something. But, SBK, you got Memphis here. We got Conley still out, and we should see Marc Gasol back in this game after being rested on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I think he's the best play on this side. I would be shocked if he were to sit again, especially against a short-handed Cavs team. I think he's in a great spot. He's still not priced out really on either site. The usage is going to be through the roof without Conley. And I mean, if you look at that starting lineup, there's really not much in the way of offensive threats there. So I think Gasol, obviously, it all runs through him. I think JaMychal Green, he's still very fairly priced. He's $5,500 on FanDuel, around that same price tag on DraftKings. So I think you're still kind of locking and loading him up. Weird matchup. It's obviously you can pretty much throw the DVP rankings out the door for the most part, maybe besides the center spot. It's going to be a very different Cleveland team here. So, I mean, obviously the Memphis side is intriguing given that, but I think it's pretty much Gasol and Green for me. I'm not going down the Andrew Harrison. I'm not doing that. Tony Allen's kind of out for me, so I think it's just kind of the front court, and I'm kind of ignoring the rest.
Yeah, I would not be shocked here either if we see Memphis roll out like Zach Randolph after playing 31 minutes on Tuesday night on a back-to-back with the shorthanded Cleveland team. Like, I would not be shocked, and if that happens, just load up on all the JaMychal Green you can get. And Davis got hurt in the game on Tuesday night, so we'll have to pay attention to that. He could be out as well, which could open up a few extra minutes for JaMychal Green. But I wouldn't be shocked if they sit Zebo. What's your thoughts on that, SBK? I know you do the alerts and stuff here. Would that shock you?
No, I when you said that, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I still think, obviously, Memphis is playing surprisingly well this season. They have, I mean, if you look at the injuries they've incurred and their record, it's kind of shocking. So, I mean, I think this is obviously a game they want to win. This is a spot against a tough Cleveland team where you can kind of pick up a W. So I could see them staying as close to full strength as possible. But yeah, I mean, Randolph has not seen run into the 30s with really any regularity so far this season. He's mostly been a bench guy. So I could definitely see them resting him after 31 minutes. I think that's a nice call.
Yeah, well, even if he doesn't sit, I could see him playing limited minutes here just because I think Memphis controls this game. Let's move on. Sacramento at Houston, 217 total here. Houston favored by 9.5. Obviously, we need to pay attention to the Rudy Gay news. He's questionable. McLemore is questionable. Those guys are both day-to-day, so we have no idea. They'll probably get some news after shoot-around. What are we doing with the Kings here, Noto?
Yeah, so I just saw a tweet that said Rudy Gay is doubtful. So whoever's doing the injury updates for the Kings is up late tonight working hard. So
that came out at them. Yeah, 12:27. I like that. It just came out. Look at you, man. You're on point.
Yeah, well, I got to keep up with all of our questions we're getting on Twitter,
Oh, jeez. All right, with Rudy Gay doubtful, like, man, just seems like a spot we could just load up on all the Cousins.
Yeah, everyone else is pretty much going to see a nice usage boost. DeMarcus Cousins has a true usage of 36%, which is right there with Joel Embiid as the highest for a center. Yeah, he's just awesome. I play Boogie anytime I can. His prices come up a little bit, 11.5 on FanDuel, 11.6 on DraftKings, but that doesn't really matter. He's playing a Rockets team. It's not great defensively. Clint Capella, I mean, he's a decent defender, but Cousins should be fine in this matchup, especially with the increased usage. Darren Collison's played well the last couple games, although he will draw the Pat Bev defense. Beverly's one of the few guys that I really try to avoid taking point guards against. I still think he's in play on DraftKings, but definitely out of consideration at 6K on FanDuel. And then Omri Caspi, he's been seeing some minutes, a little bit more minutes lately. He's only 4,400 on FanDuel and DraftKings, and he could crack 30 minutes with Rudy Gay out.
Yeah, I don't mind that call at all. Caspi, a guy that, that small forward. Oh, he's power forward on FanDuel now? What are you doing, FanDuel? Like, Caspi's a power forward. All right, that's good to know. I'm with you on Collison. I think he's more of a DK play. 6K on FanDuel. You could pay up a little bit more and, look at, like, the Dragon or some of these other guys that we had already mentioned. But tough matchup there. What's your thoughts on Garrett Temple?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that I haven't really played at all this season, but with Rudy Gay out, I wouldn't mind him. They actually gave Matt Barnes the night off the other night. He's been dealing with some personal stuff or legal stuff. I'm not really sure. But yeah, if he's out, I don't mind Temple.
Well, the reason I mentioned Temple, I said that McLemore's questionable. We got the same news on him at 12:32, so he's doubtful as well. If McLemore's out too, like, I don't know about this whole Barnes situation, like dealing with all that legal stuff. So Garrett Temple could be a really sneaky 3,900 play over there on FanDuel. SBK, you have Houston here, and just tell us how great James Harden is against Sacramento's shooting guard defense.
He's fantastic. There's going to be quite a few of my tournament lines will be started with Harden and Cousins. Sacramento, I mean, they're not the same team as they are last year. I think we're deep enough into the season where people know that now. But in case anybody doesn't realize, this is not nearly the cake matchup that it was a year ago. Sacramento's 21st in pace. This game has one of the highest totals, expected to be close. So I'm going to be all in on Harden, as I am most nights, especially at that shooting guard spot. There's not, once you get past Harden, there's really not a lot to like, especially if you're not a DeRozan fan like you have clearly made it known that you are not. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard in their punt for you. So yeah, I mean, obviously he's going to be the first guy in my cash game lineups, I think. Other than that, Patrick Beverley has been playing surprisingly well. He's been involved even in games where his shot hasn't been falling. He's been racking up rebounds. His assist totals have been a bit higher than I had expected given the usage that Harden is carrying. So I think Beverly's still priced very reasonably on both major sites, so I'm perfectly fine with that. And the rest of these guys, it's kind of status quo. You know what you're getting with Trevor Ariza. You're around 25 fantasy points, nothing exciting. If you're looking for tournament upside, he's not your guy. Clint Capella, the minutes have kind of been trending in the wrong direction there, so it's a bit concerning, and especially with potential impending foul trouble against Cousins, not a spot I'll be looking. But I think you can get all the exposure you need here to this game with a Harden Cousins stack. There's, like you mentioned, I think Garrett Temple is a sneaky GPP play. He's a guy you've got to plug into that lineup to save some cap. So, but on the Houston side, it's kind of Harden and Beverly for me, and the rest of the guys are relatively unexciting. Maybe Eric Gordon in a tournament.
Yeah, Beverly, 27 or more fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. I feel like the $5,400 price tag is starting to catch up to where it needs to be. I liked when he was in the 4K range. I think he's fine here. I just think we're starting to see the upside be limited for tournaments. I think if you're playing Beverly, he might be more of a cash game guy. I hate to say that. But, what are your thoughts there, Noto, on Beverly being a cash game play instead of a tournament play?
Yeah, I've used him the last couple nights. He's definitely had a high floor recently, and we've seen the minutes slowly pick up. So I like him. I don't know how much, if he has 35 to 40 fantasy point type upside, but definitely high floor guy that I don't mind using in cash games.
We cover everything on Houston, SBK. We're moving on.
Yeah, that's about it, man.
All right. No love for Ryan Anderson?
No, man, he doesn't do it for me. I wish he was kind of running with that second unit, kind of playing that Eric Gordon role, to an extent. I think Gordon is kind of interesting because he's running with that second unit. But, yeah, not a lot of love for Ryan Anderson here.
Man, if we had news where Ryan Anderson moved to the bench, I would play him on so many teams. But, getting eaten up by that Harden usage and not really doing much here. Detroit at Dallas, 189.5 total. Detroit favored by 4.5. Dallas side injury news kind of really hasn't changed. Dirk's out, Bogut's out, Barea is out. We'll let you start here with Detroit. KCP questionable. That's the only news for the Pistons. What do you got here, Noto?
Yeah, this game's kind of ugly. Sometimes in these 10-game slates, we just kind of X out some of these games, and I think this could be one of them. 189.5 over-under is pretty low. Mavericks, slow-paced team. They're actually slower pace than the Jazz now, and they're ranked 7th in points allowed per game. Pistons only have an implied total of 97 points, which is really low. But I do like Reggie Jackson in tournaments. Played at least 28 minutes in the last 2 games, and his price is still pretty cheap. $5,100 on DraftKings if you want to take a shot there. And then Andre Drummond, kind of intriguing. Mavs front court is a little bit shorthanded. They're ranked dead last in rebounding differential, and we know Drummond has that 20-20 type of upside, and people hate playing him, so he'll probably have low ownership as well.
Yeah, if KCP's out, Stanley Johnson got a nice bump in minutes. I think he played, 25 or 26, if I remember correctly, and had a pretty decent fantasy day. So if KCP's out, maybe look at Stanley Johnson for some value. But from what I read, that I think KCP is back here. But don't actually like this matchup for KCP. I'm not down with the KCP here. What's your thoughts on Tobias Harris, Marcus Morris? These guys are locked into minutes, and they're still relatively cheap.
Yeah, I mean, they're fine. Not the greatest matchups. Morris will probably see Finney-Smith, and then Harris will probably see Harrison Barnes. So not the best matchups in the world. And, again, it's a pace-down game, so I probably won't be playing either guy.
Well, you tweeted questions, and I'm making you talk about this game more. That's my goal is accomplished. On the Dallas side of things, with all these injuries, any interest here, SBK?
I think Noto nailed it. On a 10-game slate, there are certainly some games you want to X out, and this is absolutely one of them. Dallas is last in pace. They also have the lowest team total in this slate. There are a couple of GBP options here, though. Wesley Matthews has been playing really well lately. Harrison Barnes, obviously, is still priced in that mid-range, carrying a fairly high usage. So if his shot's falling, He can certainly return GPP value there. Deron Williams, another guy priced in that mid-range, also carrying a high usage. The minutes, a bit more inconsistent than we've seen with Barnes or Matthews. But any of those three, I'm fine sprinkling into tournament lineups, but I'm not making an effort to roster any of these guys.
Finney Smith.
That was my boy the other night.
Boy.
All in. I did it, and it definitely paid off. Wesley Matthews, let's talk about him real quick. If you want a tournament flyer, this guy is always 5 to 6, 7% owned, and this guy's been playing really good. The shot's been falling. We all I know I believe in hot streaks in baseball, but this guy has 25 actual points in 3 straight games. I could get behind Wes Matthews here. Yeah,
I mean the price tag is also creeping up with that. As his shot has begun to fall. So I mean, there's that concern. I think he's 5,800 on FanDuel now. Like we were just saying a couple minutes ago, I liked him when he was better in that 5K range. So I mean, now it's they're making you think about it. But yeah, I mean he has been playing very well, and obviously there's not a whole lot of other offensive talent on that side right now. So I'm okay with it. It's probably not an area I'll be looking personally, though.
Not to step on your toes, Stevie, but he's only 8,300 on rosters over there.
There we go.
Not one of my value plays, but I like it. Under 10K, I could get behind it. And Finney Smith, I just want to talk about him real quick. I loved him in the matchup against Denver the other night. This is an excellent spot to let everybody else roster him and jump back off. Denver's awful on defense, and we're looking at a good Detroit defense. This is a good spot to jump back off. I'm guessing you guys are both on board with me here.
Yep.
All right.
Although
his initials are DFS. Just realize that.
Hey, you just realize that? You're not down with the DFS. We have the KCP, we have the DFS. I'm getting the whisperer going here. Oklahoma City at Utah, no total in this game. Obviously, probably because we're waiting to know if Oladipo is going to play. He's questionable. Rodney Hood's questionable. Exum's questionable. Hill is out, and Favors is probable, but going to be on a limits minute. Thunder, what are we doing, Derek?
Oh, man, I'm still licking my wounds from last night. I had so much Russell Westbrook, so much Cantor, so much Steven Adams, and, it was just bad.
Blown out.
Bad.
Portland ran them out of the gym.
On their third game in 4 nights, too. That's the most surprising thing to me about it.
Yeah, and that game was the one game that turned into a blowout. It was the lowest spread of the night. Anyway. Not bitter at all.
Not at all. And then we get a matchup against Utah. You're in that area. Utah's legit on defense.
Yeah, it's a really tough spot for Oklahoma City. I mean, at least their starters are going to be well rested since they didn't even play last night. I don't think I can. This may be the first time all season that I fade Russell Westbrook. I think he still has a high floor. I think his floor is around 40 still, but I don't think he's got that 65 to 70 type of upside against the Jazz. And everyone else, I mean, I'm just not targeting against the Jazz.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. Even Cantor, I'm not touching these guys here. And if there's ever a spot to get less exposure to Westbrook, because I don't know if I could ever fully fade him, especially in tournaments, if I feel like he's going to be under owned here because of the matchup. If there's ever a spot to get less Westbrook, this is definitely the spot. And then on the Utah side, you have any interest in this Utah team going up against Oklahoma City?
I think are you talking? You asking Noda, the Utah native?
No, I'm asking you. I can't let him talk about Utah. He's biased.
All right.
That's true.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously with Favors back, that kind of. I mean, Rudy Gobert has been rolling of late. But I mean, we don't typically target centers against Steven Adams. Not that Cantor is really that offensive minded as it is, but I think against OKC, I don't typically target many guys in the front court. Gordon Hayward, obviously, I'm still very much on that train. 8,100 on FanDuel with no George Hill. Usage is still really high. He's carrying a 34.5% usage rate over the last 2 weeks. Still not priced out on either site yet. Oh, I mean, in theory, Oklahoma City would be tired, but like Noto had mentioned, their starters really didn't have to see a whole lot of run there. So, we may get a relatively rested group, but I'm still perfectly fine with Hayward. I think he's got a 30-ish point floor. You could see him up towards 50. I'm not all that worried about Roberson's defense. So he's the one guy on that Utah side I feel comfortable with. Obviously, the front court's a bit hard to target now with Favors back.
If we get news that Hood and Exum out, what's your thoughts and how much Shelvin Mack is too much?
I think there's a point where too much Shelvin Mack is too much, but yeah, I mean, if we see both those guys sit, he's going to have to play a pretty heavy amount of minutes. He's obviously still fairly scoring dependent, but as the point guard, they'll throw you a few assists here and there. So I mean, I have some interest in tournaments. Definitely would not be an area I'd look at all in cash games, especially with the value we have on the Cleveland side. I think it's a bit more secured over there. So definitely fine with Mack in tournaments, but point guards against OKC has been a thing this year. So I'm okay with that.
You wouldn't take Mack in cash at 4K on FanDuel?
I was just going to say, Derek, put him in his place, please. Like, even though you're biased, like, if Exum and Hood are both out, like, you lock Mack in so fast. Come on, SBK.
Yeah, you have
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think you lock him in. I think he's definitely a strong option, but his floor is still down there.
Oh, his floor is what, 17 in 30 minutes? Like, okay, at 4K, I could take a 17-point floor against Oklahoma City in a up-paced game for Utah.
Come on, SBK.
Yeah, I'm not completely disagreeing here. I'm just saying it may. There's a lot of value to be had. So there's other places you can look. Only point I'm trying to make.
No, you see what happens when you show up late to the podcast. Like, your brain just gets all scattered all over the place. Let's move on. Last game of the night, we have Boston at San Antonio. 201.5 total. San Antonio favored by 8. We already know Isaiah Thomas is out here. What's your thoughts on Boston going up against Sacramento or San Antonio here?
I try to avoid players against the Spurs whenever possible. This is probably one of those situations for me. Low total overall, low team total. I think Marcus Smart you could look at in a tournament. He's coming off of one of his better games of the season. And Tony Parker is arguably their worst defender. But, I mean, there's a ton of value, like you mentioned. Mac, best value on the board, SBK. And, yeah, I mean, Smart's fine, but I probably won't use a ton of them.
All right, I'm going to throw a tournament name out here for you. Kelly Olynyk. Like, I can see this guy, the stretch center, giving the Spurs a fit. Like, Pau Gasol, LaMarcus Aldridge, they're not going to guard this guy on the three-point line.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I look at these type of plays sometimes, and sometimes they pan out and sometimes they don't. But at 3,700 on FanDuel, if he gets you 20-plus points here at 1% owned, like, you're cruising.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'd probably rather go like a Channing Frye type, but yeah, sure. I get the argument.
Yeah, Channing Frye at 50% and Kelly Olynyk at 1%. If I outscore you, I'm doing good.
It's true.
I like Frye too. I'm messing with you. Like SBK, he was late. Who cares about this guy? The San Antonio side. The San Antonio side. Are you sure you're still with us here?
I'm sure. I think I'm with you.
Okay. The Spurs, any interest in any of these guys not named Kawhi Leonard?
All right, I'm gonna go back to the whole Shelvin Mack situation for 1 minute here. How sure are you two that both those guys are gonna sit? I mean, we saw Hood go through a full practice Tuesday. I think we can expect them to play. I think that's a safe assumption. I think Exum is much more questionable. I think he's better, more than likely to sit, but I don't like being attacked here. I think Hood is definitely going to play. I think you guys are overblowing this Mac value. It's the only point I want to make.
No, we said he was a lock if they both were out. That's what we said.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if they're both definitely if they both definitely sit, then there would theoretically be it would be tough for him to not hit 30 minutes. But I'm pretty sure Hood's going to play.
Even if Exum sits, I still think Mac at 4K. I think I'd lock him in.
How do you like the Spurs, SBK?
All right, let's get back on topic. I mean, obviously, like Stevie led us into, Kawhi is still priced very reasonably. He's coming off. He's finally kind of getting it going there. Boston 25th against small forwards. So I think he's kind of a lock and load. It's kind of strange that this is the latest game of the night with an 8:30 start time. An interesting aside there. Other than Kawhi, I think Aldridge is still in play for tournaments. I don't think you're really targeting anybody else on the San Antonio side in cash games. But Aldridge is definitely still interesting. It still seems like he's too cheap, relative to his price across the industry. So I think you can look there in tournaments. I'm not afraid to target the Boston front court by any means. But outside of that, I don't have too much interest in the San Antonio side.
This is like one of the nights where I actually am okay with not having anybody in the late game. Like, I'm okay with that. And, usually we're really worried about those West Coast games giving us fits as far as points go. But on a 10-game slate, it's not a game that I'm super interested in here. That's going to wrap it up for the game-by-game breakdown. Since I didn't really have to do a lot on this podcast, every day I give out 3 roster value plays. And I could have done 3 guys straight from Cleveland, not going to do that. All those guys min salary or under 8K, and the one guy that I picked here is J.R. Smith. He's 8K. It's just too cheap, right? Like 8K for J.R. Smith. We've already talked about it. Just lock him in.
Yeah, I think he could honestly be 6K on FanDuel and DraftKings and 10K on rosters, and you could still consider him tomorrow.
All right, SBK, I'm gonna go with you to this next one because I know Noto would definitely get behind me on this one. He's 8,500. Damari Carroll, 8,500 in this matchup. I like him a lot here. I love small forwards in this matchup. What's your thoughts on Carroll?
I like it. I mean, obviously, the Philly risk, there's some blowout potential there. Toronto is on the road, so I think the Sixers can keep this close, especially with Embiid on the court. And we're starting to see Carroll's minutes kind of trend in the right direction there, so I don't mind that call at all.
And then I'll go to you on this one, Noto, because I already know SBK likes this one. But Trevor Booker, 8,500 in a pace-up game. This just seems like a good spot to attack him here.
Yeah, I like Booker. Great match against the Lakers. And, I was hoping you were going to say Shelvin Mack because Steve likes that pick a lot.
I should have. I should have just completely trolled him with Shelvin Mack. But Shelvin Mack, excellent value if we get some injury news there in Utah, just so you guys know. So, Noto, you tweeted out that you were going to hop on the podcast with us, and if anybody had any questions, the more off-topic, the better. We would answer them. And the first one comes from your wife.
Yes.
How much does Stevie love the Q&A on the podcast? And also, why does SBK eat like a 10-year-old?
Yeah, let me take the SBK one. I'm worried about his health. He eats pizza and chicken fingers. I don't think he's had a fruit or a vegetable in 10 years or so. We need to get this guy some help.
So, Noto.
I need to talk here. Noto, you were dead wrong, man. I had a vegetable like 15 minutes ago, dude. 15 minutes before we hop on the show.
French fries don't count, man.
All right, so I've been more serious at the grocery store lately. Been trying to pack on some pounds. I did not realize how cheap canned food is. Like, if anybody has said that you can't eat good for cheap, they haven't been to the grocery store. They are throwing the canned foods at you. They're basically like begging you to take the fruit. So yeah, man, I've been on the corn. I've been on the green beans. A lot of rice. It's been good, man. I've been. You are way wrong on this diet here. That is. I think it's all. I mean, we eat a lot of, like, we've talked in person a lot. Our diets are very similar, but I've kind of started to branch out recently. So the 10-year-old thing, way overblown.
I feel like I don't know you anymore.
Yeah, man, I'm growing up.
Oh man, our little SBK is growing up. This one, Derek. So I went to the Nashville office on a Friday on my way up to Bristol earlier this year. And I went by the office. I had to meet up with Cam and talk to him about some stuff. And me and SBK go to lunch. He's like, dude, I know this awesome place. So we go to lunch. We go to a hot dog place. Like, it was
hot dog in Nashville.
Like,
that place is awesome.
Was it like a cart?
No, it was an awesome place. But it was like, SBK, this just goes with this question so well. Like,
yeah, it's the branch out has been recent. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you asked me this question a year ago. This is 1,000% correct. But I'm slowly starting to grow up. I'm getting there. Not all the way there yet, but it's coming.
Have you been to Hattie B's yet?
Say that? Oh no, I've had it once, like the day after. Yeah, never had it. It's crazy. I can walk to it. Yeah, I can walk to it. We had it once in the office. We had some kind of like meet up in the office, and I had it like we had gotten it one night, and the next day I came in and eaten it, and it was still good. So I mean, it's got to be incredible in person. But I'm gonna have to get on that very soon. Yeah, next time you guys come out.
Dude, that's my first stop every time I come to Nashville. Like, legit, we got off the plane, we checked into the hotel, and I walked to Hattie B's. That's how the RG party went for me. Oh man,
every time it comes. He just goes after he drinks though, so we don't remember it the next day.
Who cares? That's fine. Like I tried to steal Notos from him when he came to the hotel on Saturday night. Like when His wife's shoe broke. I was like, I don't care about the shoe. I want the freaking food. All right, let's get back to these questions. This next one is really interesting. What do you all do to blow off steam after tilting? Asking for a friend that had Elf, Booker, and Melo everywhere tonight.
So first off, Elf, great pick, by the way. Without Vucci in that second unit, we saw him have that big game. But to blow off steam, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't tilt way hard unless it's like a really bad losing streak. So I'm probably not as bad as most.
SBK, you have any tilt?
Well, I mean, one good way to not be on tilt is to not watch the games, I guess. But obviously that's no fun. I mean, I don't know. Look forward to the next slate. I mean, a big part of my role has to do with projection. So like once I've kind of had it for a night. Like it didn't really come till late tonight until the Thunder got going. But once that game hit halftime, it was at that point I was about done. But I mean, look forward to the next slate. I think that's probably the best way to blow off steam is kind of just looking for the next one. Daily fantasy sports it's a tough thing to win at every night. It's never going to happen for anybody. So you're going to have some down nights, but just try to get back up for the next one.
Yeah, I don't tilt either, except for the NASCAR Live Final. I super tilted that. So the best advice I can give, just trust your routine, trust your research, and if you have a bad night, just try to figure out why you had a bad night and get back to the next day. And that's why we play daily. What resources do you guys use aside from RG for NBA DFS? Don't want to get into it too much. Don't know. I'm just kidding. Like, I love StatMuse. I use NBA Reference. Now that we have Court IQ on Roto Grinders, I love that tool. One of my favorite tools that we have. But honestly, like, I still use a lot of RG. What's your thoughts here, guys?
Yeah, I use a lot of RG as well. StatMuse is awesome. Anytime I'm looking for, history against a particular team or anything like that, I love StatMuse. I import a lot of stats from NBA.com and from John Hollinger stats on ESPN. And then, a couple other minute projection sites out there. I'll always check Labs minute projections each day.
And USBK, I know you just use the DFS alerts here at Roto Grinders, right?
I wish, man. NBA.com this has kind of been very recent for them, but they have some incredible advanced stats. Like if you really want to dig into things very closely, if you want to see how a particular team defends isolations or how they defend pick and rolls, stuff like that, you can find all that on NBA.com. You're going to have to dig for a bit. It's not like the easiest data to find, but it's there. And if you there's guys like, say you're thinking about a Carmelo Anthony type and you want to see how teams defend isolation, that's really not available at a ton of other spots around the industry. So I think that information on NBA.com is really valuable. So I think that's probably where I spend the most amount of my time away from RG.
Yeah, and like I said, the Court IQ tool, like if you guys haven't checked out Court IQ at Roto Grinders, like you're doing something wrong. Like the tool is awesome. You can, play with it and see how guys are performing with other guys on the court, and it's just an awesome tool. And if you guys haven't checked out the First Look article every day, like not only because Noto's on the pod, but like this article every day, just a great place to get started and try to get an idea for the slate, right when you're getting started here. Next question, why does Derrick Rose hate me? SBK, that one's all you, buddy.
Derrick Rose hates everybody sometimes. He's a tough guy to get right, man. I mean, you play him enough, you're going to think he hates you for sure. That guy is not quite as young as he used to be. He's one of the more injury prone guys out there, so you're kind of always playing with fire with him. But he kind of hates everybody sometimes. You're going to have some highs and lows with Derrick Rose. You got to kind of know what you're getting into. It's going to be a volatile relationship.
All right, Derek. This next question's all you. How many Cavs is too many Cavs for cash games tomorrow?
Yeah, so I think you can play the max. I think you can play 4 on FanDuel, and I think you play 5 on DraftKings if you really want to.
All right. Is it feasible to stack Houston, Sacramento, and Brooklyn, LA for cash? Another cash question, so it's all you again.
What were the two?
The Houston, Sacramento, and the Brooklyn, LA game.
Yeah, I like Houston, Sacramento a little bit more. Lakers game, kind of more tournament options.
All right, and then this last one's all you, SBK. How do you win an NBA single entry tournament?
You score the most points in the tournament.
Sorry,
the best team. I mean,
sorry, listeners. This is what happens when you show up late.
I mean, how do you win a single GPP? I mean,
I do play those a fair amount, and I don't attack them like cash games. I think that's kind of a mistake. I think you kind of have to find somewhat of a balance between upside and floor there. I tend to like to pick maybe 2 or 3 games and have some pieces from both. You're still in a GPP mindset in single entry for sure. Obviously, if you're finished, it's not a double up. Like they're still paying out a small portion of the field, and even a lot of those payouts toward the bottom you're basically doubling up. So you're still playing for upside for sure. So I think some people make the mistake of assuming that single entry GPPs are somewhere they should put their cash game lineups, but I do not think that's the case.
One thing that I've been doing, the one thing I've been doing with single entry tournaments lately is I've been like taking like 2 or 3 of my cash game or cash players off my cash lineup and like mixing in some low owned guys that have maybe a higher ceiling but a much lower floor, and still getting the floor with some of the guys and getting the ceiling with some other guys. But that's gonna do it, man. This is always fun to do the 3-man podcast. Me and Derek are over here falling asleep because SBK showed up so late to this podcast. It's just awful. Man, this guy. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Derek?
Avoid whoever Monty Muto's guarding, and good luck.
Oh man, I'm never gonna live it down. Just like SBK, you're never gonna be living down being late here. And I'm not even gonna let you have final thoughts on the slate. If you would have showed up on time,
I want to get some final thoughts.
Hold on,
I'm gonna get some final thoughts. I'm gonna be 13 minutes early for this next show, and then.
All right, I muted him. So that's how we're gonna end the podcast. Guys,
I think I unmuted myself.
You did unmute yourself. I can only do it for like a few seconds. That's going to do it here for the Wednesday edition of the Morning Grind podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with some football talk. Make sure you guys are checking out the NBA Grind Down every day, Monday through Friday, Noto Right Side, and the First Look. And then SBK runs the alerts team over here at Roto Grinders. So top of the page right there, Roto Grinders DFS alerts. You guys can check that out. Make sure you guys are checking that out if you're playing NBA. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck in your contest.